Today we are starting our sourdough journey. Now I've heard that sourdough starter is very hard and very finicky, so I got a kit from a company called Home on Magnolia Hill on Etsy, and I'm hoping that this will make it just a little bit easier. So let's get started. So the kit comes with everything that you need. It's the jar, a wooden spoon. They say not to use a metal spoon for this, so that's awesome. The sourdough starter, all-purpose unbleached flour, and then a ton of directions that are a little intimidating. So let's hope for the best. So for your tools, the directions say you need the large wide mouth glass jar. She says, I like at least 32 ounces with an airtight lid. We have that. Wooden spoon, never use metal bowls or utensils with your starter, and a food scale. Okay, so the instructions say empty contents of sourdough starter packet into your jar. Add 1 ounce of lukewarm filtered water to jar and stir until sourdough starter chips are completely covered with water. I looked it up. 1 ounce is 2 tablespoons. This has me nervous. I've just heard so many horror stories, you know what I'm saying? So now we stir everything until the chips are completely covered with water. Place lid loosely on jar, not airtight, and let starter sit for approximately 3 hours, stirring 4 times during that 3 hours. Okay, it's been 3 hours. We stirred it 4 times, and now it's time to feed our starter. I don't know why, but that term just creeps me out. Like, we're feeding this thing? Like, what does that even mean? We're supposed to add 2 ounces of the unbleached flour to the mixture, and 2 ounces is 4 tablespoons. Now it says 1 to 2 ounces of water. So I'm going to start with 1. And again, 1 ounce is 2 tablespoons. So 1, 2. The starter should be the consistency of a very thick pancake batter. Start with 1 ounce of water, which I did, and if needed, add a teaspoon at a time until desired consistency. Mix gently until all combined. So we're just mixing. We want pancake batter. It's looking real pancakey if you ask me. Okay, I think we've got the consistency that we want. It says cover jar loosely and place somewhere warm if you can, or room temperature is fine too. It may just take your starter a little longer to wake up in cooler temperatures, and that's okay. So basically we have nothing to do until another 24 hours. And in 24 hours after your starter's feeding, it is time to feed your starter again. We're gonna add 2 ounces of unbleached all-purpose flour and 2 ounces of filtered water. I think I'm gonna need more flour because this is all I have left. I have flour, but is it unbleached? I don't know. I'll have to check. So I'm gonna put this guy to sleep and I will be back tomorrow.
All right, we're on to feed number 2, and we're going to add 2 ounces of water and 2 ounces of flour to our already existent, very hungry starter. And I did this about 24 hours after its first feeding. And the next day, whenever it was time to feed, the starter was very liquidy, so I knew that it was hungry. And this time I had to remove all but 2 ounces of the starter. What I did was just measure it out, put it in a separate bowl, discard everything in the original container, put back the 2 ounces of starter into that original container, and then I went ahead and fed it. Per the instructions, I added 1 cup flour and 3/4 cup of water. And here's a tip I learned: never discard your starter down the drain because it can clog your pipes. After day 10, you can keep it for other recipes. And this is what my starter was looking like on day 7. Per this Sourdough for Beginners Facebook group I'm in, it wasn't quite active enough, but it was getting there. Now, day 10, this was right before her feeding. She was very, very hungry, as you can see how liquidy she has gotten. And then at the end of day 10, after she had peaked, she was much more active. The noise is there, the bubbles are there. The only thing is I put this exact video up on YouTube Shorts and asked the masses if it was active enough to bake with, and multiple people said no. But in the Facebook group, A lot of people say that they bake after like 2 or 3 days. It just has to rise for multiple days before you can bake. So as you can see here, that rubber band and below is where the starter began, and then it raised all that way when it was peaking. And this is what my starter looked like on day 11. So I decided to do another test. It's the float test. You basically take a little bit of your starter, put it in a cup with water, and see if it floats. And if it does float, it's supposed to be ready to bake with. Per the Facebook group though, this is not always a great indication as to whether or not it's ready to bake with. So I think I'm just going to take it upon myself and the education that I have gathered to use my starter to bake a loaf of bread tomorrow. So y'all stay tuned for that video. Bye!